Good morning, everybody. This is Brian Wallace. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Kiefer Consulting, and I'm joined this morning by Terry Ray, who is our Senior Project Manager, and we have a presentation for you this morning. It's entitled Uncovering the 4 Benefits of an Optimized Business Workflow. We do these webinars every month, different topic each month. And this month, we decided to kind of focus on workflow and some best practices on how to optimize, and then also give you guys some insight into what are the things you can do to make sure that when you decide to optimize or automate a workflow, what you might need to do to make sure you're successful. So again, I'm Brian Wallace, Director of Marketing here at Kiefer, and I'm joined by Terry, who is our Senior Project Manager. Hey, Terry.
Good morning.
And she'll be jumping in kind of later on in the presentation. Just a few quick housekeeping items. The GoToWebinar has there's like a little toolbar that pops up on your screen when you're in the webinar, and you can actually ask questions. And there's some handouts there. We'll go ahead and reference them later in the presentation. Those are free for you to download. We have an ebook and some other infographics related to workflow that you might want to peruse at your leisure. So this presentation is called Uncovering the 4 Benefits of an Optimized Business Workflow. And essentially what we're going to do is we're going to start to talk about the things that our customers have been able to realize after taking a workflow and applying some of the levers that help improve things for them. We're going to show you what benefits they start to realize, and what it's what comes of some of this work that's been done between us and our client when we work with our client. So I want to start really quickly. I know that we've got some folks on the line here that may have never worked with us over here at Kiefer Consulting, so I wanted to just tell you 4 quick things about us. 4 quick things. First, this year we are celebrating our 30th year in business. Pretty proud of this milestone. We've been in business since 1988. Obviously, technology has changed quite a bit, but we are a technology company, and we've changed a lot with the technology, and here we are 30 years later. So a pretty proud moment for us, and we'll be celebrating all year long. Number 2, we are a Microsoft partner. We are 100% Microsoft, 100% aligned with Microsoft, and been exclusive with Microsoft since 2000. Our team has over 50 certifications, so we work a lot on the platform. A lot of state agencies we work with are now moving to Microsoft Office 365. So we're able to offer a lot of expertise in that area. So pretty exciting time for us. Lots of great innovation coming from the folks at Microsoft. Number 3, we have 25 of the best consultants in the industry. Some of you may have had an opportunity to work with some of our folks. Really great people here. We have full-time, no staffing, fully benefited team here with an average tenure of 4.2 years, which is pretty outstanding in our industry. And number 4, one of the things that makes us a little bit different is we come to every engagement with a complete team, which includes analysts, project managers, and a technical team. So when we're working with a client on a workflow improvement type of project, you're going to get kind of the best of all worlds and get a team that really understands end-to-end what needs to be done to get you to the goal. All right, so this is something that this is something we just want to make sure we share with you as we lead into this presentation today. So if you take a look at what we offer as an organization, we offer some very specific things as it relates to workflow. We offer a simple solution suite, a process automation practice essentially, and then we do some custom application development. Those are kind of core to that complete offering that we have. If you take a look at the way we're aligned with Microsoft, a lot of our offerings line up with what we call the modern workplace, and we're doing a lot in the areas of data and AI, which really is data and also data analytics. We have a pretty strong Power BI practice here at Kiefer, so we're helping customers make sense out of some of the complex data sets that they're working with. Different organizations. So let's start real quick and talk a little bit about workflow. This illustration here looks a little crazy, but when we've talked with clients, a lot of times when we talk about being able to optimize or automate, what you see is customers will go right to their biggest, most complex business process. And really, when you think about what it takes to truly optimize or automate these processes, you really need a lot of, you need a tech-heavy solution. You're going to need a lot of time, talent, and it's going to be pretty costly to develop the right solution to get it right. What's also crazy about this is when customers try to tackle these really complex processes, by the time they're done, the world has changed, and it may have not. This may not actually solve the problem that they initially set out to solve for. So what we like to suggest to a lot of clients is, if you're focusing just on the big processes, you might want to start looking at some of these everyday processes. Look at the smaller stuff that's going on in your different departments. These are very important to look at because these are kind of at the core of your business. Things like purchase orders and expense approvals and onboarding new employees, it seems like they're small processes, but I'm good. But really what they seem like small processes, but they really do have a big impact on the business. If these processes are inefficient, these are the things that slow folks down. A lot of times we reference them as the stuff that no one loves, everyone does, and no one questions, right? So to shed a little light on that, these are some of those kind of processes that we're talking about. Things like routing of expense reports or approving leave requests. These are the small everyday processes that are really the ones that really have a lot of impact on the business. And we're going to talk about one specific today in this presentation, and hopefully I think some of you may actually be able to identify with where we're coming from. So the everyday processes, these are the ones that I think you have the most opportunity to improve. And one of the things you got to keep in mind is these are the processes that kind of originate anywhere in the organization. So every department has their own a specific process that they own that causes them issues throughout the day. These are also the processes that are really drive the organization. They represent kind of the lifeblood of the procedures that make the organization run. Distraction. Many people see that these everyday processes, the complex ones, are the ones that distract them from the real work, as they call it. They're also magnets for mistakes because these are the ones where people get so caught up in it, and they are the things that nobody really likes to do. They receive less attention to detail, and they're often where most of the mistakes are made. These are the things that add up to a significant amount of time and money. And what's interesting is that these are the ones that are often ignored. They are rarely considered worth the time of automating or optimizing because they're not considered central. But the reality is they are. They have a lot of impact on the business. And I'll share with you just a quick story here. We worked with an HR department and showed them a solution that we had built to automate the onboarding process. And IT was in on the meeting, and they sat across from HR, and they saw this solution, and they saw kind of a proof of concept, and they were like, we need this now. And they were looking at their IT folks like, hey, why aren't you guys bringing this kind of solution to us? And IT was looking back at HR like, I didn't really know you had a problem. Nobody ever mentioned it to us, right? IT a lot of times is focused on the squeaky wheel, and a lot of times you've got different departments that are stuck in their everyday processes that don't realize that there's actually a better way to do things. So, what we try to do in working with clients to automate and optimize is kind of try to find where those processes are that the particular department is having the most struggle with, and put those in front of IT and explain that some of these issues can be resolved, and work with IT to kind of build a solution that works for everyone. So let's go back just here real quick, the Kiefer workshop. So we've been doing this workshop with clients to help identify where these everyday processes might live. And we do this exercise, there's a picture here where we've got some of these different business processes on a critical workflow Venn diagram. And what we've done is we said, hey, why don't you take processes you're working on every day and show us where they align to some of the challenges that exist with a critical workflow, things like low visibility, slow and inefficient, paper-based, or time-sensitive. And then what we do is we kind of work through some different exercises to help clients understand how we can address some of these issues and improve the process. We conducted these interactive workshops to help customers find the processes that make the most sense. We work with the business side to talk about the inefficiencies in their current workflow. And some of the exercises that we do is like this right here is the identification exercise. What we also do is we do an exercise that helps understand what to expect if we were to improve the process. We help customers determine the value of the transformation and assist in identifying different barriers to success. And then we help them align to some of the solutions that can help facilitate some of the improvements and then help them optimize and automate. So as you saw on that last Venn diagram, there's a lot of broken processes have a few things in common. One of them is the broken processes lack visibility. It's hard to know where certain things are in a process. So like if you take a workflow diagram and you say at the beginning it starts here and at the end it ends here, all the things that happen in between are the things that really you need to know where the particular documents or where the particular item is in the workflow to really assess what needs to be done next. And the biggest challenge for a lot of clients that we work with is they don't know where that document might sit. So let's just say, for example, we have a onboarding document that needs to be approved by 5 people. We don't know where that particular document might be in the process, so we can't really drive any real efficiencies because we can't identify where the bottlenecks might be. So that's a big issue for a lot of clients. The other thing is that there's no way to notify key individuals that an item might need attention. Now, we rely heavily on email in a lot of different business units, or we know that we've worked with a lot of clients that rely heavily on email notification. And you know how email is, it's very easy for things to get lost. And so I might be the third person in a 5-person approval process, and I might have missed the email. So all of a sudden, this workflow process that should take a week is now stalled, and nobody knows exactly why, because there was no way to notify that there was something that needed to be done. A lot of broken processes are heavily paper-based. So if you're relying heavily on paper, there's really only one single source of truth, and it's usually a piece of paper that's routing around waiting for signatures. So we've got, that causes a lot of challenges for people because there's no way for us to really see where that document might be in the process. And then the last is metrics. There's really no way to measure the efficiency of a process if you don't have a way to measure how long certain things take to get through a process, and there's no way to really get better if you can't identify the bottleneck through some type of metric. And we work with clients where we've been able to show them at this particular part of your workflow, you have a delay of X amount of days. So it's easy to identify that particular part of the workflow is where we need to spend some time and work with the client to get some improvement. So let's just talk real quickly about a process that we'll just call the red folder process. And this is we do the exercise with clients, and we'll go through kind of the identifying what processes make sense to improve. And a lot of times clients will bring us different opportunities, scenarios. But then there's also times where we kind of discover them as a kind of from the outside looking in, and this is one of those processes. So we had a client we were working with, and we needed procurement documents to be signed, and we waited for somewhere around 2.5 months for these documents to move through the procurement process. And when we contacted the customer about these documents and where they might be, nobody really knew where they were. And they did tell us that the process actually took a lot longer than it probably should, and that it was manual. So we kind of got an opportunity to kind of dig a little deeper and kind of understand how their process worked. And so in working with this client, this very real business challenge started to surface. And the way that it works is that the procurement documents were put in a red folder and they were passed to another approver. The reviewer needed to manually pass those documents to the next reviewer and move its way through the organization. What we found is that this kind of process is very common. It's called different things. Different clients call it different things, but it's an approval, review and approval process. And it may be a red folder for one client, it might be a blue folder for another, but this is very, very common. And I don't know if anybody out there is experiencing anything quite like this. My guess is that if you have a paper-based workflow that requires signatures, this is something that would seem very familiar to you. So what we can do is we can work with a client to take a lot of those paper-based workflows and make them electronic, so that things are happening, we're getting more visibility to where things are in the process. Notifications are happening. If things aren't being approved in a timely manner, we can actually then route it to some other approver. There's a lot of different ways that we can build the workflow so that it creates some efficiency for the client. There's things like reminders. We can actually create new tasks, visibility through a dashboard. There's a lot of really cool things that can be done with the technology. But what is very important for us to do is sit down with the client, understand what the beginning to end and the middle looks like, and then architect kind of a workflow for the customer. So now I want to just kind of uncover the 4 benefits of this optimized workflow. So here was that red folder process, and what we wanted to do is we wanted to address it by making things more electronic. So we went from a paper-based workflow, took all those documents and turned them into electronic documents. And what they're able to do is move them through the workflow electronically without actually having to put physical paper into a folder and pass it around the office. Then what happens is when the next person needs to approve it, they get a notification. And what's cool is that first person in the process could then go to a dashboard and see where every document in the procurement process is in the workflow. So it knows it's sitting with the next person. It knows how long it sat with them. It knows if they can then reroute it to another. They can then elect to reroute it to another person if they need to. So that visibility is important. So being able to see where every document is in your workflow at one time. And then the last benefit here, I think, for a lot of folks is that metrics or that dashboard, to know that you took this process, which typically took 3 weeks, down to 11 days, right? Or even more efficient. What we can do is then say, okay, where are our biggest bottlenecks? And then we can work on kind of further improving that particular piece of the process. So the outcomes here, we reduced the processing time by 60%. And like I said, we didn't pull all the levers. This wasn't a full end-to-end optimization or automation. We didn't optimize and automate everything, but this gave us a 60% improvement over the existing process, and this is pretty significant. I mean, considering this is one of those types of processes that we would have referenced in the beginning of the presentation, that would be kind of an everyday process. So now I'm going to pass it over to Terry, and she's going to talk a little bit about kind of the big picture. So we talked about a complete team. We talked about a technical team that can come in, or actually we talked about the business analyst team that comes in and helps you understand your process, a technical team that builds a solution, and then the project managers. And this is kind of Terry's wheelhouse. So I'm going to pass it to her.
Thanks. Brian. So it's important to remember, whenever you're automating a process, you're also changing the way that the people work, not just the process. And this can have a bigger impact on your staff than you might expect. So change isn't easy, and they've done studies on it, and it can take up to 3 weeks. In fact, they say you should expect at least 3 weeks before you can break a bad habit or adopt a new, better one. It helps to understand the psychology of change, to know how to succeed at introducing and implementing any kind of changes in your organization. Because even when we know that a change is good for us, it can still be hard to accept and actually to want the change to happen. So remember, change is a process. It's a series of processes or a series of events. You need to create awareness, and don't mistake awareness for simply creating buzz. Flash mobs won't drive sustained change in behaviors. So you need to have an awareness plan, and in thinking of your awareness plan, you want to take the perspective of the people being impacted by the changes, because they want to know what's in it for me. I don't care how it impacts everybody else, and I'm sure it's good for the business, but personally, how is it going to impact me? ProSci, who's the leader in change management training, they have a framework called ADKAR, which describes the 5 goals that must be achieved in order to manage change successfully. ADKAR stands for awareness. Again, you create that awareness. And one thing that you want to think about when you're creating that awareness is who should deliver the message. Different groups are going to want, they're going to receive the message differently depending on who it's from. And the second, D, is for desire. You need to create desire for the people to support the change. Whether it's going to impact them or not, you need them to be supportive of it. And then K, ADKAR, is the knowledge. So you need to tell people how to do their new job, how to do the work that's required from the change. And then A is the ability. That would be the training in the skills that they're going to need to know. And finally, in the ADKAR, the R is reinforcement, to keep it working and keep people happy. And as you can tell, change management happens before, during, and after you've optimized your process. So you want to make sure that you are taking the perspective of the people being impacted and communicating frequently and often. And one of the ways you can reinforce the change is maybe point out the actual realized improvements and efficiencies that your optimization created. And again, that's the metrics and the dashboard help you actually give measurable improvements. And you might end up with your strongest resistors being your biggest champions. So we are professionals in helping our clients to manage the change prior to, during, and after they've implemented any kind of business process automation.
Nice. So we do have a little bonus for you today. We do recognize through all the work we've done with clients and deploying new solutions or optimizing workflows that there's a lot of times there are barriers to change. Things like somebody saying something like, we've tried this before and it didn't work. There is something behind that. And what our consultant's notebook does is it kind of takes a lot of the common things you commonly hear in an organization and tries to assign them to what is it we're really hearing here? Is this an organizational resistance? Is this an unwillingness to change? Things like that. So this is what we did is one of our consultants, Andy Coyle, has put together this notebook, and what we did is we published it as a free ebook. It's actually you can download it for free over in the side column. For everybody who joined today's webinar, they can just go ahead and it says a handout, and you can download that consultant's notebook and use that information. And if there's anything else we can help you with, please feel free to reach out. We really do thank you for joining us today. We try to, like I said, we try to keep these webinars right right around 30 minutes, and it seems like we're right within the time frame. They're very high level. We obviously don't get into too much detail, but what we do is we want to just get folks familiar with some of these topics, and then kind of take the conversation further if you choose to do so. You can reach out to either Terry or myself. This presentation will be recorded, and we'll make it available to everybody who is in attendance today. And you're welcome to take a look at it again. And if you, one of the things we mentioned today was the Kiefer workshop. If this is something that you think your team could benefit from, going through an exercise where the different business units come together and talk a little bit about some of the challenges, business challenges or business processes that they touch every day that they think could be potentially improved, we can take them through some really fun and interactive exercises to kind of figure out ways to make some change for them, make some positive change for them. So again, thank you for joining us today. If there are any quick questions, we do have over on the side panel there is a place where you can fill in a question. But again, we have our information here available to you, so you're welcome to kind of reach out at any time, and we can definitely talk. But I do want to thank you guys for joining today.
Thank you.
And like I said, we hope to work with you in the future. Talk to you soon.